afternoon, wherever you might be. Welcome to this room here, LinkedIn Audio, with myself, Ariel Serber. I've got Roy Glassberg, who's, you're on mute, Roy, by the way, so just so you know. If this is your first audio room, welcome. Some of you have been in these before multiple times. Try to make these one-on-one conversational, and then we open it up to the audience, where we sort of can engage and learn a lot, really get to know what's happening in areas that are important to us. Obviously, this is top of mind since October 7th, has been the situation in Israel and everything going on, especially the hostages. And Roy is with A&D Ventures. Roy, you're muted, so if you can take yourself... Oh, there you go. There you go. So, so welcome, Roy. My name is Ariel Serber. If you're not familiar with me, I'm an advisor with a firm called Lions Financial. We help businesses here in America and abroad with all types of support and services. And once the attacks happened back in October, we really turned to support our clients and our friends, frankly, with whatever they might need in terms of physical supplies, mental, sort of just people to talk to, or any help or support along the way. And obviously, we've been talking with Roy and his team over in Israel, and I want to let Roy introduce himself to everybody. With a little background.
Perfect. So,
yep.
Yeah, sure. So, hello everybody. This is my first time doing this, so this is cool. I did not know that LinkedIn had this feature. So a little bit of background, 47 years old, living in Israel currently. Main job is raising my 4 daughters. On top of that, before October 7th, I was the founder and managing partner of N Ventures. And before that, for 6 years, traveling the world and building a lot of Google startup programs in multiple continents, which was a great experience to make a lot of mistakes and get away with it, with providing a lot of value to startups around the world.
Okay, so, well, when you say a lot of mistakes, what do you mean by that?
I think, like anything we do in life, at the end of the day, we're product managers, so we need to very well define our product, the feature sets, and most importantly, what our users need. And I think when you start building, start a program like I was trying to do, especially when it didn't exist at Google, or it wasn't really something Google was looking for at the time, you had kind of a double sort challenge of, on the one hand, how do you make it interesting for a company like Google to build that level of influence with close touch engagement, and at the same time, what does really make a difference for startups? What does really make a difference for founders?
Yeah.
And I think this took me through a long journey of understanding the pros and cons of accelerators versus incubators, versus at the end of the day, that founders need a close friend to help them build and help them be successful.
Yeah. So, and then you're employing the studio model, right? So
exactly.
So that takes us up to obviously October 7th. Can you talk about, because I really want to get to, as we say, tachlis, like really want to get into it. So what happened? Where were you guys that day? And take us through that, and then what you've been doing ever since.
So October 7th, I was wrapping up a family trip and a business trip to the U.S. We were in New York, in Manhattan at the time. And, just before, I see life as before October 7th and after, because I think a lot of the conceptions we had about the strength of Israel, the position we had, especially in the South with Gaza, this is something we did not see coming. And I have to say that Both me and my family kind of went into a 48-hour shock of basically trying to comprehend and understand something that is uncomprehendable. And what happened is that Monday morning, I was introduced to a Wall Street journalist who was doing a report about the impact of the war on Israeli tech. By Monday, I've already connected with my 14 portfolio companies. 7 out of them had founders being called to service, which means that by Monday, I found myself being the interim CEO of one, hiring a data scientist to replace a CTO in another company, and basically trying to keep them all together, immediately informing the 3 companies that were fundraising that we as a fund will be deploying money immediately to make sure that they have the safety they need to deal with the war and come back. So I was pretty happy with supporting my portfolio companies and making sure that everybody is in the right place.
Yeah.
And then I got on this interview where the reporter is asking me, okay, but this is a bigger problem than your miniature fund. What do you see as the risk overall? And that's where I caught myself without having an answer of, yes, this is a much bigger problem than the microcosmos that we're managing as a $60 million fund in Israel. And I really didn't have an answer. And then I got together with a bunch of my friends, Paul Alstrom from Utah, Grant from New York, Jared, Julie Myers, a bunch of people, and I told them, listen, there's something bigger than us here. There's a real risk that Israel is facing, and I think it's going to take a long time for us to assess that risk, to be able to understand it. And if things are not going to happen now, we're going to be waking up too late yet to another catastrophe. And what I mean by a catastrophe, and really not undermining all the amazing work that our military is doing down in the south and in the north and in other countries around the Mediterranean. Israel is facing a very severe risk on the economic level of basically our advantage before the war has become our disadvantage. 20% of Israel's GDP is tech, which is more than twice the percentage of tech within the U.S. economy. It's even more than that in comparison to most European countries. And if 20% of our GDP is tech, and we have over 300,000 people serving, we have to understand that we are basically risking the 2022 and 2023 harvest of early stage startups that are supposed to be developed in the next 4 to 5 years, exit, and continue to contribute to the Israeli economy. So this is kind of the realm of risks that we are facing right now in Israel. And sorry.
Yeah, no. That's like extinction. What you're describing sounds like this extinction level kind of crisis, because
I don't know if extinction, because we can always find ourselves living in a tent, but this is an existential risk.
Sure.
Definitely. And it's mainly, kind of a perfect storm. This war caught us after 8 consecutive quarters of a decline, significant decline in investments in Israeli startups. We have an 80% decline versus 2022.
Yeah.
And we are seeing the biggest hit taking on early stage startups, while companies like my portfolio and other VC-backed companies have a mutual interest with the VCs to continue supporting them. I think companies that have not reached the VC level are the ones that will be suffering the most. And this is caused by the war, caused by the economic decline we've had in the last 8 quarters. But this is not something that's going to end the day the war ends. We have to understand that this is something we'll have to be going through and solving for throughout 2024.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a process. And you're right. I saw something that a lot of, I don't know about a lot, I don't know how many, but a number of the reservists have started coming back towards their old, quote unquote, old lives, I guess, work and all that. So obviously it's over-indexed to tech and all of that. So what is the Frontline initiative? How did it get started? What was the what was the seed of that idea, and how has it gotten created, gotten started, gotten going?
Perfect. So Frontline was basically taking my personal experience with our portfolio companies and thinking, how do I scale it? So my portfolio companies, some of them had two main challenges. One is, how do we compensate for the founders going to war? In some cases, the CTO, the CEO, head of sales, head of marketing. And that was kind of one place where a lot of professional support is needed. And at the second level is obviously the funding. And how do we compensate for what is already kind of mission impossible for these founders? Is how do they 10x themselves in sales, market reach, validation year over year, where they've had 3 months where they were basically not able to support and were mainly focusing on sustaining their businesses. So with these two elements, I was kind of thinking with the team on how do we create a platform that will be able to compensate for the lack of performance, or the lag in performance for many of these companies. And then we started Frontline as basically, how do we build a platform that does the validation, does the DD, does all the processes needed for investors to feel safe investing in companies that need their funding the most, but at the same time are not PowerPoint based. They've already got some traction, they've got sales, they've got customers, but at the same time, not VC backed, because we already spoke about why I believe VC backed companies should be sustaining themselves with their VCs. Right. And then we've received 170, I think today we're already at 220 applications, out of which we've filtered 62 startups that met the criteria of having at least 100K in ARR, one founder being called to service, and having customers outside of Israel. Basically, what we believe is the first spark of product market fit. Okay. And we've onboarded all these companies onto the Frontline website and services. So today, companies that were accepted have the level of professional services, preparing them for fundraising, connecting them to customers, really compensating for what they need. And we've been able to onboard over 100 angel investors to the platform, and we have 22 active processes right now for investment. That was nice. Yeah. But we felt like this is not enough, and this is not going to be at the pace of what we need to solve for this issue, which is why we are restructuring Frontline as a fund that will be able to basically provide investors with access to the Israeli early stage ecosystem. Again, validated startups already on the platform, so that's pretty easy on that side. But at the same time, making sure that the investors basically enjoy the complete fruits of their investments, while we have a professional team that will be able to work with these companies and with the funding also continue supporting their growth into the U.S. market. Okay, that's amazing. So there's a lot there, obviously. When you say product market fit, what are you looking for within these companies to sort of separate? Maybe you got one or two good customers versus like actual product market fit. You know what I mean? So I will tell you that after 20 years of working with startups and the kind of intersection between corporates and startups, the definition of product market fit is something nobody has ever been able to really define. But it was important for us to focus on the companies that have already gained traction, meaning there's already a number of customers paying for the services, paying for the product. And again, having international customers is critical as well. So that's why we put kind of this arbitrary benchmark of 100K minimum in ARR to know that they've crossed a certain stage of what I hate to say in the VC world, turns them into fundable companies.
Mm-hmm. So is it just U.S. or they can have customers elsewhere around the world? I just wanted to clear that up.
International customers.
So it could be anywhere. Um, so what do you? Well, first of all, can you actually give a little more information on websites, where to find you guys, where to look for all that?
Definitely. So our website is frontlinein.com. Would be great to share it with the group after. And maybe a more important part than seeing the flimsy website we built is where we can all chip in and help. So, you know, after 20 years, there are a few things you have to learn.
Yeah.
And one of those things is that you are never going to be able to accomplish things doing stuff yourself. And we've built Frontline, and I've built the Google programming, all based on having a lot of smart, talented people who share the vision and share the cause.
Yeah.
And helping. So again, Frontline is a non-for-profit, will always be a non-for-profit. But I think the idea here is how do we really come together? And I know there are many initiatives happening right now, and they're all important. We have to understand that we are looking at a $250, $300 million early stage investments that need to happen in the year of 2024 in order to compensate for the crisis that we're going through. So we're definitely one piece of the puzzle. We're not the only piece in the puzzle.
No, of course.
But we're totally open to anybody that wants to contribute, from professional support through investments, through thinking together, how can we do this better and stronger? Because that's eventually what brings us all together on this call and in general around the effort of Israel coming back to the awareness of the world as not just who lived here first in Israel.
Yeah.
And I think that's a stupid discussion to even have. But I think most importantly is to understand that Israel is the land of tech, and we can call out billions of people around the world who are using Israeli tech on a daily basis, and we need to get that topic back into the awareness of everybody.
Yeah,
100%. We want to build tech. We have no time for war. We have no time for fights.
Yeah, it's a drag.
We really want to continue. Exactly. We really want to go back to building unique, innovative tech that changes the world, and this is where we need to get back.
100%. So where can people sort of make, obviously money, but where can people, in terms of their skills or network or resources available to them over and above money, how can they create that their own fit for what you're trying to build? Do you know what I mean? Like, how can they sort of match their skills with what you're looking for?
So I have to say that I'm looking for people who want to contribute, people who want to be involved, and I think every person has their way and their unique skill set to contribute. In the case of Frontline, this is the most important thing I'm doing, basically. With being a managing partner in a fund and doing a lot of other stuff, this is the place to be. This is the cause to be supporting right now. So everybody feel free to reach out directly to me. Let's get on a call. Let's get a brain dump on where you think you can contribute. Where do you see the value you can provide? And again, not limiting it to anything we've done so far. I think the beauty of this is also innovating in the way that we can solve for this problem. There's always more than one solution to every problem.
Yeah. No, and that's obviously an across the board kind of life lesson. Can you also talk about the event coming up in New York, I think on Monday?
Yes, I've become an Alal frequent flyer because Alal is the only company flying out of Israel. Saying it sarcastically, of course. But I am traveling once a month to New York and Miami mainly.
Okay.
And we will be at the early offices in New York in Soho on Monday night.
Yep.
Happy to share the invited details about the event to everybody who participates in this call, and you guys can feel free to pass it forward. It's kind of a roundup of the community around Frontline and what we can do together to make it better and stronger for the support of these founders. After Monday, I'll be flying out to Miami, where I'll be meeting with a bunch of groups there as well. So whoever's local, happy to connect directly and meet up there as well. But really, this is where we're putting all the effort and all of our energy, and the more brains around trying to solve for this problem and trying to get to the right results is always highly respected.
That's awesome. I think this is a very New York heavy room. So please forward to your Miami friends and connections, and I'm thinking of a few already as well, and I'll be there. I know a few other people will be there. Daniel, I see you're raising your hand. I'm trying to allow you to speak, but for some reason it's not letting me. Maybe send me a message with what you want to add. And David, do you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself and either ask us a question or give us your thoughts, your input, please?
Absolutely. So, everyone, thank you, Roy and Ariel, for helping organize this event. So, Roy, I know in the beginning of the war, tech companies were dealing, specifically startups, they were dealing with roughly 30 to 40% of their workforce being called up for reserve duty. Obviously, back then, almost 3 months ago at this point, the need for volunteers, specifically within the tech world, was substantially higher than I believe it is now. Do you believe that, aside from capital, do you think that there's any need still for connecting remote volunteers to startups, specifically for the purpose of the extra hands to catch up for work that they've been missing out for the past couple months?
So thank you for a beautiful question, which is exactly in line with our initiative. So a couple of things. One, we have to remember that we're talking about early stage companies before they've received VC funding, which means that usually when you talk about one founder being called or two founders being called, and in one of my portfolio companies, actually all three founders have been called to service, they basically have a backlog. They have a backlog of sales. They have a backlog of pushing their product forward. They've got across-the-board challenges that they'll need to solve for. And the VC industry that I'm part of and trying to fix from within has very little tolerance to you haven't met your goals and you haven't grown as fast as you should, and your ARR is not where it should. So these companies are going to have challenges in the next 6 months compensating for the time they were out, to how do they show the right performance in order to raise VC capital, which is critical for their next stage of growth. So I would agree with you that we probably don't need CTOs. We probably don't need tech development support for these companies. But anything around go-to-market, customers, raising money, compensating for the time they were out, and helping them increase their velocity in the market is critical at this point, because what we want to do is in a relatively short period of time to get them to be even better than they were the day before the war, because that's what is required. So, and listen, I feel in general that we are like, kind of in a room of friends of sharing the care for the Israeli startups and the Israeli economy, and in general for Israel. I would like to think that if we all get together, not only that the Israeli startups are not going to suffer from the war, and honestly, I admire each and every one of these people being called to service. I was actually declined for being too old, which is an ego issue I'll have to solve with myself. But, we got to make this better. We got to make this better and stronger. We got to show the world that Israel is a land of tech, that we're all connected in the world to support. And we need to put these guys back on track to where they should be and even beyond.
And I had one more question. So obviously we're kind of 3 months behind. within speaking to your colleagues within the startup ecosystem, how long do you think it's going to take to recover from this 3 month, I guess, downtime?
It's up to us. It can be a recovery within the next 3-4 months, and it could be something we'll never recover from, and we'll have to compensate for in the years to come. I feel the pressure. I feel the pressure right now of not building my own business and not performing for myself, which I could care less about right now, is about these founders that really, with no hesitation, on October 8th, packed their bags and went to war. And they're coming back. In the last 2 weeks, we're seeing more and more of them coming back to basically recovering from what they missed. And they didn't ask themselves for a second the question of what's going to happen to their companies and what's going to happen to their customers. They went and did what they had to do, and I think it's up to us now to really put all the effort we can to compensate for that and really try to get them to a point where very quickly we can create a turnaround for most of these companies that have joined the program, and hopefully we can get more. We want to create something that's bigger than us, obviously, and really push these guys forward. And one last thing to say, current assessments are that 50% of the startups I'm talking about at this stage of initial traction, initial customers, and pre-VC, 50% are going to fail raising money in 2024. So we're needed yesterday. We're not looking at how long will it take us to fix this. We got to fix this now.
Right. It's an urgency thing for sure. Thank you, David. Really appreciate it. And obviously, look, this is just one part of an ongoing issue, challenge, conversation that we're all going to have. So, I definitely appreciate that. Alexandra, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Ariel. And hi, Roy. Nice to meet you. My name is Alexandra. I work in this crazy but wonderful Israeli startup ecosystem, and Dash from Grant. So my question for you is, how are you working together with your counterparts, colleagues, friends, and other funds in the Israeli ecosystem to sort of be successful in these efforts? And do you see other examples of similar funds that, what I'm calling emergency funds, that are arising in Israel and outside of Israel?
So let's start with the second question. That's easier to answer. Yes, we have about 5 initiatives doing similar emergency funds being structured. I think the challenge I see is that funding by itself is not going to change the paradigm. I think it's going to be funding adjacent to the professional services and access to market. We just need to expedite everything and then hope that we'll be able to help the ecosystem recover. On the first question, just because we're structuring Frontline, again, for us to be a vehicle, we're working with a lot of the funds in Israel and a lot of funds in the US to basically enable them to enjoy the fact that we're already injecting money, and our terms are always going to be better than anybody else's. We're basically injecting money through a safe structure with a discount on the next round. So we are definitely open and inviting every potential investor that wants to invest in the Israeli ecosystem to leverage what we're doing and accelerate what we're doing beyond, because we're always going to have a limit of how much we can raise and how much we can invest. And as I've said, if we are aiming to $40-50 million fund that will be supporting these startups, we have a need of about $200 to $250 million injected in the next year into Israeli startups. So anybody that sees this as an opportunity to invest and co-invest with Frontline after we've done the hard work of validating these startups and getting them to a position where they're ready for investment, including grant, putting in overtime and mentoring them and penetrating the US market, is definitely an opportunity to get everybody on board. And that's how we're building this, so it's available for everybody.
Thank you.
That's great. We'll go Daniel and then Danielle.
Thank you,
For sure.
everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. First, I want to start saying thank you, Roy, for the way you work, the way you're thinking, the way you're supporting Israeli companies and the tech environment, and I'm just amazed by meeting, digitally speaking, meeting somebody that is so passionate about Israeli tech companies, and I very much appreciate it. In the name of all the founders, tech companies, I want to appreciate you for the support and at least somebody's doing something, and thank you. My question is, I have multiple questions, but I would like to ask you if you tried already knocking doors in South America, Latin America. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a Jewish guy in South America. I have multiple tech businesses in the area, and Baruch Hashem, I also have investors in this area, and I would like to connect them to you. Maybe they're interested in going to Israel, and not only, that's my question. Have you tried, or can we try? Can I do something like that, Roy, to support your efforts?
I don't know if I'm supposed to answer yes or hell yeah.
Or how?
Yeah, I'm practically on the plane. You said you're in Panama,
Yeah.
Daniel, right?
I'm in Panama. You can
Oh my
come,
God, there's such good kosher food there. Actually, it's beautiful.
and there is such kosher food, and there is the tech environment here is also growing,
Yeah,
and this is a very strong Jewish community, and we love Israel.
yeah. I had a Panamanian friend in elementary and high school. I'm still in touch. My friend Panama Joe, he's back and forth there. So, absolutely, this love it there.
Daniel, before we go to 6 years at Google of traveling across LATAM and building the accelerators there, which I love to do, we have Paul on this call, who was a huge support in this. Let's reconnect and position this and make sure this is available to people across. I am active in Mexico City and Guadalajara. I'm active in Sao Paulo. Buenos Aires is a little bit challenging in Chile. But definitely, if you see your ability to contribute and be part of this, one, you're welcome with a hug, and two, let's do it.
Thank you, Roy. I wanna help. I don't know how, but I know that I wanna help.
Let's get on the call, and we'll find a way to help. When there's a will, there's always a way.
Yeah.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you again.
This is great. I mean, this is the whole point of these things, right? Like to make these connections. And I want you also to, I want to hear Danielle's story, because I know her story, but obviously many don't. So go ahead, Danielle, please. And welcome.
Hi, Art. Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. So I am the founder of Batch Place, and I'm Israeli. My co-founder is also Israeli, and on October 7th, we were both in New York, and he got on the first flight out that night and went back to Israel, and he just was released from Miluim after 3 months. So this really resonates with me, and thank you to everyone on here for listening, and also Roy for your initiative. It's really incredible, and as a Israeli founder, this speaks to my heart. Noy has been doing a lot of social media work, and our story had gone around because of what happened. But for us, the question that I have is that we are early stage. We're 3 on our team. Noy got obviously drafted, and our other tech founder is also Israeli, a little older, so he wasn't drafted. But we have less than 100K. So we don't necessarily meet this criteria, but is there access or a potential for the program to be open to other early stage startups that we have a product, we're in the US already, we're just behind from the 3 months where Noy wasn't involved on the team, of a way to move forward now? That's the big question for us, is how do we kind of recap, how do we essentially move forward after losing 3 months of steam, with one person really being out, and he was critical to our team.
The short answer would be please apply to Frontline and reach out to me directly, and I'll make sure we kind of assess where you guys are at, what are the needs, and where we can be helpful.
Okay.
The long answer is I will prioritize the first injection of funds to the companies that cross the 100K, but hopefully if we do this right and we do this strong enough, there's going to be a lot of room for a company like yours, and we already have a few that are a little bit under the threshold but have gotten to the validation of getting US-based or international-based clientele. And we'd love to have you guys on board on the platform as well.
Thank you. I will definitely be applying then.
That's great. Thank you, Roy. Thank you, Danielle. And, everyone should really check out Danielle, her co-founder, her startup, Batch Place, as she said, and support everyone here. Francesca, welcome.
Hi everyone. Hi Roy. Thank you so much for putting this event together. A little bit about me. I'm an American married to an Israeli. We arrived in Israel for Rosh Hashanah, and we have been staying for the past few months through the war, and it was originally always our plan to be here for a few months to see what it would be like to live in Israel full time before I make Aliyah next year. We went all in on our advisory firm. We work exclusively with Israeli startups on expanding to the US on their go-to-market strategy, as well as hiring and recruiting talent in the US. Obviously, with the war, we have seen many startups have to put a lot of plans on pause. So one, wanted to offer to anyone, if you have anyone that needs really quick help, we have been filling roles like crazy the last couple of weeks for startups where people have returned from Miluim. So want to offer very quick help, always open. Please get on my calendar. Would love to help anyone that needs it. And Roy, I have a more market-based question for you. How have you seen startups that have been impacted by the war? How have they been pivoting and potentially either delaying or accelerating on their go-to-market plans in the US?
So I think there's one simple answer. They've been late to the game. They've been late on pushing their sales efforts. They've been late on pushing their development efforts, which all resulted in a lower increase, if at all, in their ability to sell their products and extend their reach in the market. And as you all know, Israel has no market. So for us, 99.9% of the startups are solving for the US. And a lot of these startups, most of these startups that we've been engaging with, kind of putting it as a kind of a personal experience. I got on calls, and actually as a fund, since October 7th, we've been accelerating our investments and accelerating our studio work with companies. And in two cases, I had founders that started a conversation with telling me, thank you for getting on this call. You're the only one out of the 10 investors that we've been scheduled to talk with this week that actually got on the call, and everybody else canceled. So we have to understand that sales is down, fundraising is down, everything that's supposed to propel these companies forward is down right now, and we need to help them compensate for it.
So I have a follow-up to that. So what are the immediate practical steps that you're taking as investors, or that companies should take today, if not already taking, to get back on the right foot and get things moving again?
So one, unfortunately, companies will have to cut down significantly. We're already seeing this across the board in a lot of the companies that we're engaging with.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the most important question is what we can do to help them sustain the next 12 months of getting them back on track to continue fundraising and continue growing. I think every founder that is currently building a company in Israel is asking themselves, where do I cut down? Which people that I let go? And how do I regroup myself in order to continue growing and not even continue growing, but sustaining what we have today? I think it's our role to give them the guidance, the professional help, and the funding for them to continue growing and continue pushing forward, so they don't have to suffer, because there's always this kind of chicken and an egg. You're in a financial distress, you lay off personnel, which means that you're performing not that well as you did before,
right?
Which means you continue growing into financial distress, and that's
a spiral.
basically what I call the Titanic of how do you crash a company into the how do you crash a company at the end. So I think it's our job now to come in and support them and make sure that they're back on track.
Right, because obviously that's happening company by company, but I think what you're also trying to tackle, which is a lot harder, I think, in a lot of ways, is the entire ecosystem. So how do you save some but not all? Are there any sort of, like, I'm struggling even to like conceptualize the question, but if you get me, where it's like you have a lot of companies, but then you have the overall economy. You want to save them all, but that's sometimes physically impossible, right? So how?
That's why we put a very clear criteria of the audience we're addressing right now.
Yeah.
That's why we already have 63 companies validated that I'd love to see getting the professional support and funding injection in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
And then we can start extending and scaling. But I think this specific group that we would like to grow of companies who've already had enough traction and we're on the right path are the ones we should prioritize most of our energy in, and then extend further and further. But right now, honestly, we still don't have the answers for the existing ones, and I'd love to have that answer
right
in the next couple of months.
Of course. And I mean, I think rooms like this, audiences like this online, and like in New York next week, or Miami after that, or hopefully Panama or other places, can kind of, they all build on each other and hopefully compound, hopefully quickly over time. So I want you to, I want to wrap up, because it's been 45 minutes, and I know people have other things to do today. This has been really an excellent conversation. I really appreciate it. And I hope that it doesn't just stay here, but that it grows and continues in the comments and separately for anyone that wants to reach out to Roy. Is there anyone else they should follow or can reach out to, so that it's not all on your head or your plate alone? It's you have a team, right?
So we have a team. Some of them are even on this call with Brittany and Ara, and obviously Ariel, who's kind of been my wingman for over a decade. We have Shai on our team. We have a lot of folks. Charles. We have a lot of people here.
Yeah.
But feel free to reach out to me directly. We'll make sure that the whole team is involved and we can push everything forward together.
That's great. And how can people help directly on, let's say, LinkedIn platform, right? You post a lot. What should people do, share, look out for, collaborate on?
One, please remind the world that Israel is the land of tech before anything else. Don't stumble into the argument of who lived in Israel first. That's a lost battle, although we've been here for 3,000 years, but it doesn't really matter. Getting Israeli tech back into people's awareness, positioning Israel is the land of innovation that wants to do good in the world. That's the first thing I would do.
Yeah.
Avoid
the politics, the
exactly.
tit for tat.
The second thing, is, any investor, professional, anybody that you have in your network that wants to support, that wants to be involved, the more we have with the brain power and the skill sets, and obviously with the financial capabilities, this will make this stronger and will put us in a better state for the sake of these startups. So anything you guys think of that we can do better, anything that you want to initiate and support and push forward, feel totally empowered to do so, because this is a non-for-profit, community-based. Let's just make this better for everybody.
Right. Flat structure. I think going back to your previous point, the land of tech, I think that's such an important, almost like any organization, and if you look at it, every country is essentially an organization, has a story to tell. And whoever's telling the best story is going to win. So that's such a simple, succinct, true story, the land of tech. And if you look at NVIDIA and Intel and other companies coming and supporting in various ways, that sort of shows, to me, it shows what's real and what actually matters, and what's going to be applicable here in this specific situation with the tech companies and the ecosystem and everything else like that.
Google, Amazon, Facebook, Microsoft, everybody's here for a very specific reason. The brain power, the innovative power of building the impossible is happening here in Israel. Let's make sure people are aware of that, and that will get us back on track and where we need to be.
Okay, yeah. I think keep it simple, stupid. Like, just stay on message, stay on point. I think that's a great place to leave it. So thank you, Roy. Thank you, everyone, for coming and listening. For everyone that came up, that was a really great interaction across the board, and I really appreciate it. And Roy, if there's anything else you want to say, have a last word, and we'll get going.
Let's build our future together. That's all. Let's just build our future together.
That's beautiful. And you know what? Because I did notice that there was a lot of turnover in people that came in. Do you want to just give quickly the website one last time? Or
definitely. So the website is frontlinein.com, and you've got my contact details. Please reach out with anything.
Perfect.
It's important for all of us to make this happen.
Perfect. Appreciate it. And we'll put any of these resources and ideas in the comments, and I'm gonna try and put together sort of a follow-up from this audio.
Ariel, thank you so much for setting
thank
this
you.
up. This
of
means
course.
the world to us. Really, thank you so much.
This was great. We had a lot of people come through. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. All right. Stay safe. Bye-bye.